going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Long live the new Fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
We've got to return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And it's the cage key you keep forgetting, Mike.
And it's Jill.
And we are Coltonless. Apparently, he has a job. So he couldn't make it. You know, is it because, you know, the ongoing discussion of this podcast is, does Colton hate women? We're not sure. Possibly that's why he missed it. But it could also be because, you know, he's working on TV shows or I don't know, doing something. But we brought in a very special guest who I do know Colton is very sad that he isn't here because this is twice now that he has missed our very special guest. We brought Willow back. How are you doing, Willow?
I'm good. Colton keeps ducking me.
Yeah.
I think he doesn't want the smoke. He's scared.
Oh yeah, he keeps saying that he's sad that he missed it, and really we know he's literally like timing it. He's like, what? Oh, you need me Sunday? Oh, got it. Okay.
I mean, I wish I could have been here for the Ginger Snaps episode. I would have fought Colton on numerous points that he brought up about that
Oh
movie.
my goodness.
I know.
Next time, we'll make sure we'll sabotage him with you or something.
Ginger Snaps 2.
That's right.
I would do Ginger
yes.
Snaps too.
But we won't announce it. Well, it'll be like a Royal Rumble where you come out, you just run out and start attacking. We'll get you some theme music, the whole kit and caboodle. But yeah, instead of me just fumbling over, where people can read your work and all that good stuff, I figured it's just better, Willow, that you tell them.
I'm a freelance film critic. I write a little bit everywhere. You can read me most frequently at curtsiesandhandgrenades.com, which is my own personal website. I also have a Patreon, and lately I've been writing for Polygon rather frequently.
So we will get into our first question, which is always, what have we been consuming? What have you been reading? What have you been listening to? What have you been watching? And Mike, we're going to start with you.
Ooh, okay, what have I been consuming, reading, etc.? Well, the other day, hilariously, we went over to Willow's and watched, the delicious, gorgeous, stunning 4K of Tobe Hooper's absolutely underrated The Funhouse.
Oh, nice.
And that was wonderful. That was really good to rewatch that movie.
I haven't seen it yet.
And it was like, it looked so good. It was like a revelation. Like, it was so tactile and like you could smell it. It was very like sensual in a way because it was, like, it's just 4K is like a religion to me now. So I'm changed. I'm a changed man.
I want to see your bank accounts because I want to know how much money Scream Factory's putting in there for you give these 4K reviews.
Oh, I know, right? It's like literally, oh, look, we did, Christine. We did, no. But yeah, that's really like all I've watched in the last little while. And like really I've just been listening to a lot of music, and because there's been a lot of really good music out the last few weeks. And I've been having this like weird rut period of like trying to read. And I started reading a book for an online book club, which I promptly stopped at page 18 and forgot about. And other than that, I've been kind of picking away at like some Anne Sexton poetry and Joyce Carol Oates stories because they're like comfort things to me, and you can just like have little nibbles. You can have real story, read a couple of poems, you know what I mean? And like that's really all I've been up to. What about you, Jill?
You must be depressed if you're reading Anne Sexton poems.
Oh, 100%. Listen, I'm coming. Our snow just melted here. I'm coming out of like a 3-month depression iceberg.
True. She is so good, though. I love her work.
I'm glad. Also... As soon as you nodded, I was like, oh, yes, Jill knows. She gets it.
Yes. Yeah, I've also been in a reading rut. It's really bad because I keep going to Barnes & Noble like every 2 weeks and buying a stack of books. But I've been reading the same book since last time. I'm not even going to tell you what it is again. But I do this thing. You know when you like, porn. It's not fairy porn. It's actually just a fantasy without any spice. That's why it's taken me so long. Okay. Yeah. So I do this thing where I like go take a bath, and I think I told you this before, and it's just like I take my book on a little field trip. I bring it to the bath. It sits there. I bring it back to my bedroom. It's like when you're trying to eat healthy, you bring an apple with you every day to work or whatever, and you just bring the apple home and put it back in the fridge, and you know, every day it gets a little field trip. That's what I've been doing with my books. But I got some new books yesterday. I'm really excited. I got a book called Priest, which is supposed to be like a dirty book, and it is, because I open it up to any page and it's just filth, and it's about this priest who like falls in love with this woman through a confessional. So yeah, that's like my next pick. Anyway,
I have the audiobook of one of the other books in that series,
no
Sinner
way.
Or Saint.
Sinner?
No, because it's like
there's two of them.
The two dudes. It's like a monk and a reporter or something. Anyway, yeah, I can't wait to read
I knew you would know about it. I also got
Here I was all excited because I thought it was like Priest from 2011, the movie adaptation book or something.
Not so lucky. So lucky. I also got this book called Hooked, I think it is, which is basically a Peter Pan smut where Wendy falls in love with Dr. Hook. And then I got Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, the Queen, to read. Anyways, for things I've been watching, let's see. Last night I watched Crimes of the Future.
Oh.
I love Crimes of the Future.
We reviewed that.
It's so weird. Did you?
Yeah, me and Colton did a Now Slain on it.
Oh, okay. Is it 2022?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I watched that last night. That was very interesting. Seeing Kristen Stewart, make out with a really old Aragorn is so weird. Like, disgusting. It was pretty disgusting. That breakfaster chair will like give me nightmares for the rest of my life. What else did I watch? I watched Rowan's favorite, My Bloody Valentine, the other day.
The original, the 80s one, nice.
Yeah, for shits and gigs, so that was fun. The other day I watched Being John Malkovich.
Another great one.
Also super weird. Yeah, and I don't know if I said this on the podcast, but I went to see Evil Dead Rise. Did I tell you guys that? Don't recall.
No, you hadn't seen it last time we were recording.
Yeah. I think I went last weekend, and every time I go to the theater, man, at night, like if I don't go to a matinee, it's a bad time because these kids show up and they don't shut the fuck up. This happened when I went to see Nope, and it like ruined it for me because I'm just sitting there like, shut up. But I really liked it. Yeah, that's all I got. I finished Swarm finally. What about you, Rowan? Good stuff.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
So this is a weird time for me because I haven't really been watching much. I think I have like barely anything. I've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm still doing the watch of that. I think I'm almost on season 6 now. Also watching The Righteous Gemstones, which I've really been enjoying. And one thing I've been raving to everyone about, it's only a 7-episode like mini series called We Own the City. I don't know. I think, Willow, you're a big Wire fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I love The Wire.
Yeah, so this is written and directed and created by the same guys The Wire. And it's got, what's his name? John Bernthal or whatever, Bernthal, what's his name? The guy that plays the
Bernthal?
Yeah, that plays the Punisher. And it's fantastic. It's based off a book. I'm not sure what book, but it's a true story about a guns unit in Baltimore right after the Freddie Gray stuff. that basically, you know, the whole unit got like arrested. They were all dirty cops. And yeah, it's just about, it's literally just about these dirty cops and how shitty they are. But it's fantastic. If you like The Wire, it's like you're going back into that world, and it's amazing. The only movies I watched were, Jill didn't mention, we reviewed and watched Bed Rest for our Stream Scream, which was interesting. You got to go to the Patreon and subscribe to hear our thoughts on that one. You might be surprised. I checked out George Carlin again, which is one of his stand-ups. I've been slowly going through all of his HBO stand-ups. I think this is his third one on HBO, so I think we're still in the 70s or early 80s. And that was okay. And then I watched The Ringer for the first time. I actually watched this one at work with everyone at work, which is probably the most inappropriate place I could watch this. God. So I went in kind of knowing what it was about, and thinking, oh my God, this is, like, I know this is going to be a movie that is just terrible and highly inappropriate. And then was actually kind of surprised how well it treated everything. And I was actually surprised, like, the Letterboxd reviews were really good on it. And everyone's like, yeah, like, who knew this, like, early 2000s movie would, like, treat the subject matter with, like, a little bit of care, especially, like, with Johnny Knoxville in it. I was like, oh, all right. And then, yeah, other than that, there hasn't been much. I was just telling these guys before we recorded, I literally just got back home. I was away for 5 days I went to Boston. You know, did some Celtic stuff, so I've been watching lots of Celtics. But I did horror-related. I went to Salem, and I got to go to Count Org's horror movie wax museum, which was amazing. They had, like, some awesome statues. He specifically asks that you don't say what's in there. You're not allowed to take pictures or anything else. But go see it. It was, like, one of the highlights of my life. And then I also got to go to the Satanic Temple, the official one that has the giant Baphomet, 3,000-pound Baphomet statue that they, you know, you see in Hail Satan documentary that they bring to Washington. It's there, you know, took lots of pictures with it. It was fantastic. And that's pretty much all I've been doing. I haven't been doing much. Willow, how about you?
A couple of months ago, I read Paul Tremblay's Head Full of Ghosts for the first time. And I was really captivated by one character specifically in that book. And it kind of, like, got me interested in looking at the subject of exorcism and demonic possession again. So lately, I've just been watching a lot of movies about exorcism and demonic possession, and then writing about them over on my Patreon. It's an interesting subgenre because there's kind of only one classic film in the entire subgenre of demonic possession movies, which is, like, The Exorcist. So it's kind of been interesting to go back into those movies and kind of see if there's anything else there beyond The Exorcist. Like, obviously there's Evil Dead, but that's kind of a different thing. But I've been watching The Exorcist, Exorcist 2. I watched this Italian Exorcist ripoff called Beyond the Door. I went back and watched Exorcism of Emily Rose and the other movie about that same girl called Requiem from Germany. And other than that, like, I've been just kind of, like, watching whatever. I've been watching a lot of NBA playoffs like Rowan. I'm really into this podcast right now, Rob Harvilla's 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. So I've been listening to a lot of 90s artists lately, I'm in, like, a big Nine Inch Nails kind of mood right now, for example. Yeah. So that's where I've been at lately.
It's a good place to be.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, never complain about that. So let's introduce our movie for this week. Mike, this was your pick. Why didn't you lay it on the people?
Oh, it was my pick. Okay, so it's the 1942, very important distinction, not 1982, version of Cat People, which we were discussing, months ago now, I guess, that we wanted to do some more kind of like classic vintage, golden era, like, black and white horror, because we really just don't tend to, like, stray back that far, only very, very periodically. So I said, you know what, Cat People is so good, you know, and if we really want to, like, you know, there is the remake, you know, there's all sorts of stuff to, like, kind of pick at with it. So I figured this was a good choice. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Cat People, 1942.
So let's get into the trailer.
Across the centuries comes this exciting story of a modern girl cursed by an ancient legend. The legend of the Cat People. Women whose kiss means death, whose love turns them into vicious, snarling beasts of prey.
Twice I've been followed by something that was not human, something that attempted to take my life. I believe that was the cat form of Irena.
Why should she wish to harm you?
Because I'm in love with her husband. It's shut now. Just a minute ago, it was open.
It's locked. Leave us, Irena.
Cat People from 1942, directed by Jacques Tourneur, or as us Anglophones call him, Jack Turner, and written by DeWitt Bodine, and the synopsis is as follows. Serbian fashion designer Irina Dubrovana and American marine engineer Oliver Reed meet in Central Park, fall in love, and marry after a brief courtship. But Irina won't consummate the union for fear that she will turn into a panther, compelled to kill her lover, pursuant to a belief harbored by her home village. So we're going to talk about our first experiences. Is this our first time seeing the film? Or are you a seasoned film critic and you've probably seen this 8 million times? Willow, you're the guest. Is this the first time you've ever seen Cat People?
No. I think I watched Cat People for the first time when I was a teenager. I couldn't tell you exactly when I saw it, but it's been one of those very important horror films in my life. I think every person who loves horror kind of has, like, the type of horror movie that they gravitate to the most, and this falls into the category of the type of horror movie that I gravitate to the most. When I was, like, getting into horror movies, when I was younger, I was really drawn to horror movies about women who had some sort of affliction about them that differentiated them from someone else, because that was something that I related to a lot because I am trans. And this was one of the oldest examples of that I can find, but I think that I saw it when I was a teenager first, and it's been a really important movie for me ever since.
Nice. How about you? We'll go with you next, Mike.
Well, I knew of the 80s version because, of course, as that type of David Bowie fan, Cat People was always one of my favorite songs. And I had never seen the original, and when I was doing film studies, actually, in, like, I don't know what it was, my second year of undergrad or something, I remember in our film studies textbook, I kind of, like, got interested in a lot of older films, just through the, like, you know, there would be, like, whole swaths of the book where it was just, like, stills with little explanations of, like, why it was important and stuff. And I remember, you know, they were just talking about in the textbook the like mise-en-scene elements of this movie, and they were just, like, literally just mentioned it in passing. It's like, Cat People uses this type of framing and stuff. And I was just like, oh my god, that is such a beautiful shot. And I just, like, kept going online and, like, looking at shots from it and stuff. And I was like, I need to see this movie. So, you know, we sat down and watched it, and I was like, holy fuck. Like, I thought the only black and white movie that could do this to me was Psycho. And yeah, it's been one of those movies that kind of entered my canon a bit. But in the years since then, I'm very hesitant to watch it a lot because it's one of those movies that I kind of, like, save like a little gem, and I don't want to, like, just trot it out for everyone. And I don't think a lot of people will appreciate it. So I don't want to, like, watch it a lot and make it overstay its welcome. So I just, it's one of those that I'll like watch every like 8 years. And I actually hadn't watched it in years before we decided to do it for this episode. So yeah, it's not my first time. I watched it a long time ago, but I don't like to trot it out too often. Ro, what about you?
So
Are you seasoned?
No.
Like a chicken?
This is my first time seeing it. I mean, I was fully aware of it. It always kind of comes up, you know, in like iconic horror movies. I've read about it in, you know, like I'm a bi-monthly, I guess now, subscriber to like Rue Morgue. So this movie kind of comes up in lots of conversations and magazines. And I was probably more aware of the 80s one, which I also haven't seen. But kind of like you, Mike, like I knew it from the association with David Bowie. And I think, don't quote me, but I think I might have the soundtrack on vinyl. I feel like I bought a bunch of Bowie and it was in there. And yeah, so it's one that I've always had on my list that I wanted to watch. Because I've been saying now for like 2-3 years, like I really wanted to go back. And like you said, Mike, while you picked it, I have wanted to watch some older horror stuff because I don't necessarily tend to gravitate to anything past the 60s. What about you, Jill?
Oh god, save the piece of shit for last. Because
how dare you?
I am unseasoned like potato salad at like a church gathering or something because I've never heard of it. Exactly. I'd never heard of it. When I went to look it up to watch it, I was astounded by the amount of results that you get on Amazon Prime for cat people, and I had to be guided into the right direction because I was like, there's no way it's a 1942 movie that we're doing, which I should have known, but I don't pay attention when we discuss things, apparently. So yeah, first time hearing about it, first time watching it. Yeah, exciting.
I love that. We kind of have the spectrum of like experience.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Sure, yeah.
Willow's just judging everybody. That's what's going on.
No, I love that that two of you are seeing this for the first time because like it's I think it's such a good thing to like go back and fill in blind spots if you have them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's never too late to like watch something for the first time, right? Or find out about it. I love that. I'm always jealous when people have never even heard of something that I love and is like part of my lore, and then they get to just watch it for the first time. It's just so wonderful.
That's adorable.
So it's time to get into the meat and potato salad of this thing. You know where we're going to start. Our favorite scene and or favorite kill. I have a feel it's going to have to be favorite scene on this one. I mean, maybe not. But Jill, first time viewer, let's start with you.
I liked the pet store scene just because I liked how like it was starting to come together when you start realizing how these animals have like this adverse effect to Irina. So you know something is off. I thought that was really funny, like how loud it got when she went in and then she was like, you know, I'm just gonna stay outside. And the whole ordeal with the kitten. And also at the zoo, I thought that was interesting. I know that sounds like a boring favorite scene, but I thought it was really cool. I also have a question because I don't typically watch like 1940s black and white films. Was the recording like dubbed over after? Because I don't know if it was just me, but like were the voices like not perfectly matched?
That's just normal for the technology back then.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I was really curious about that.
Also, like this is a really, really low budget movie. It was made for like $100,000 because it was made during World War II. They just did not have the finances to put into movies in the way that they had in previous years or directly after. So these movies were made because the producer Val Lewton was contracted out by RKO Studios to make a bunch of cheap B horror movies to compete against Universal's horror films like Frankenstein and the numerous sequels to Frankenstein, which they were still making. And these movies became like really surprise hits that he made over at RKO. But the budget for this was like $100,000.
That's crazy because it looks really good.
Yeah.
Still today for it being that long ago.
It's
Like, I was
stunning,
kinda
actually.
shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah, the look of the movie actually inspired how cinematography would look in the next 10 years, because the look of this film and then the look of Citizen Kane kind of pushed how film noir would look in the following 10 years. Like, it was gigantically influential.
That's really cool.
I could see like there were elements of it that, because it had been so long since I'd seen it, I was like, there's like some things in it, even though it's not like kind of formally over the top, but there were like little small elements that were like kind of like expressionistic that you could see in like noir, and like the tall doors that were like went up to the ceiling and stuff. I was just like, oh my god, I love the way this movie looks. That was one of the reasons why I loved it the first time I watched it.
But yeah, what about you, Willow? What's your favorite scene?
This is kind of a cop-out answer, but I don't actually have a favorite scene in this movie. I kind of like it as an entire piece because the movie's so short. It's like 65 minutes long. I like the tone of the film and the way that it presents itself, the way that the cinematography interacts with the character. There's a scene where Irena says that she's comfortable in darkness. She finds it comforting, and she loves loneliness. And the film like goes about evoking that exact quality through basically every single shot, every single scenario that she's involved with. And basically any scene involving Irena is my favorite scene in this movie because I feel like it's so locked into how she feels, how she moves in the world, and how she's separated from this other woman in the film named Alice, who becomes a love interest for her husband. But I suppose we'll get into that later. Yeah.
How about yourself, Mike?
It was tough because, and again, like Willow said, it's such a short movie that I feel like every scene in it is essential because it's so like kind of pared down and economical. But honestly, I really there was something about this scene near the beginning when, I guess it's like right before they get married, where it's like the party at the restaurant or whatever, and I just really loved the way that even then she's like trying to like show like, oh, I'm, you know, integrated with these people and happy, and like, you know, like Willow said, every scene underscores like her separation and her like loneliness and how she's different. And then that stunning woman comes up and like starts speaking to her in Serbian, and it's just like, oh my god, it's such an amazing like little moment. And that she's just like catatonically like, you know, and I absolutely love that because it's there's nothing like overtly horrific about it, but it both like underscores kind of the themes of the movie, but also that moment between her and the Catwoman, who was
her
like
reaction.
Yeah, like it's just, and you just watch it and go, holy fuck, like what?
It's like
hell?
she's being outed.
Like, yeah, exactly, and it's like terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying, and everybody's like, why are you so upset? Like it was just one word, you know? And I'm just like, woof! It just gives me chills. It's such a great moment. And like I said, I could choose any scene in this movie, and I wrote like I literally had little notes next to like 8 of them. Like I think this is my favorite. No, this is my favorite. What about you, Ro?
So my favorite scene, I was really worried. I was like, is someone gonna pick my favorite scene? But luckily, I guess Willow kind of did. She said everything. But I really liked when it's kind of like the dream sequence with like the cats and then like the key, and then we have like the king figure with the sword and stuff. I just really liked how that looked, the transitions of it. Yeah, I don't know what, you know, it invoked something in me. I enjoyed it. I was like, yeah, this is like, especially for like 1942, they were doing all these kind of like fades into the like pictures in the pictures, and I was like, this is actually like pretty impressive, because I had read that it was like Willow had said that it was pretty low budget and stuff, so I kind of came in expecting it not to look good or anything, and yeah, I was very, very surprised by that scene.
Yeah, I loved that. Like I loved that moment too, and how like surreal and kind of like Freudian it was. I love any like dream sequence in an old movie because it's always like, you know, ooh, like, you know, like literally like Freudian dream symbolism and stuff. It's not just like, it's not straightforward. It's always like, how can we be obtuse? And like I said, the technological use for 1942 is kind of wild. Also, I love how it reminded me of like 80 movies that I saw afterwards. Like, even Hitchcock, but we're not going to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Cat People influenced Hitchcock. Fight me, everyone.
It influenced, like, I would say almost everything that came afterward. Yeah. Like, I think, like, the cultural memory of this movie is not too strong because it's just so old, but its influence on movies in the 40s and 50s is really significant.
I was gonna say, I also kind of did, like, you might kind of get that, like, Hitchcock vibe from it, where I was like, yeah, like, there was like, certain scenes, a lot of, like, the dialogue scenes and stuff, just, I think the way they were framed, the way they were shot, that I was like, yeah, it's, like, kind of giving me hints of that, and like you said, Willow, yeah, it's kind of a shame that, you know, unfortunately, when a movie's this old, that we tend to just kind of forget, and then replace it with, insert some really bad 2000s movie or something.
It bums me out because a lot of the earliest horror films from the 30s and 40s are like really, really queer. They couldn't be blatantly queer about what they were showing because of the production code and just because, you know, it was the fucking 1940s. But a lot of the people making those movies in the 30s and 40s were queer. Like, James Whale was queer. He made Frankenstein, and, you know, there's that. And then Hunchback of Notre Dame starred Charles Laughton, who was gay. So if you go back to these movies, a lot of the people involved are inserting their queerness into these films in ways that is subtle. And I think that that's true basically through most of the great 30s and 40s horror films. So it would be like very cool if they had like a renaissance.
And I think maybe you'll see that. Like, I feel like as time goes, you hear more and more about this movie. You know, like I said, like I've actually read about it a couple times, like in my Rue Morgue subscription. Specifically, like they had this listed in, you know, kind of their Pride Month issue, that this was like one of the front and center films that they discussed and talked about. Now, not to, you know, go off a super serious discussion, but I'm looking at you, Mike. I'm looking at everybody, but I'm looking at you, Mike. I want to have a conversation about our boy Oliver Reed here. I don't know. He's seeming a little sus to me.
Sus in what way? I want you to spell this out, Rowan.
Listen,
whatever do you mean?
I'm just saying that I thought it was kind of interesting that, I don't know, I felt like this guy just, you know, he didn't want it that bad. Like, he was just like, all right, cool.
No, he didn't. No, you're right. I mean, listen, he's got that whole scene where essentially he's saying to her, like, you know what'll fix everything, all your problems, all your psychic trauma, all of your, you know, displacement, depression, and anxiety. Marrying a good old apple pie guy like myself will both be normal. The most normal thing is to get married and live a normal life in a normal city. That, my friend, you were right, is very sus.
I mean,
there's so much sus happening.
It's kind of a subversion on the nuclear family because it kind of shows it, like, from Morena's perspective as being, like, totally exploitative of, like, who she is, you know?
Yeah, well, and like I said, the whole time I was like, this guy is just, you know, you could just pick up the red flags. They're just all over the place. Like, like the second date, this guy brings you a cat and is like, here you go. Like, you now are the owner of a cat. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, my theory is if you want to date me, you've got to bring me at least 3 cats. I'll take all the cats. But, yeah, I mean, that plus, like, pretty much the first date, he's like, oh yeah, I just want to let you know, like I'm in love with you, I love you, like we're gonna be together forever. And I'm just saying, girl, you gotta get out of there.
The call is coming from inside the house. No. But I mean, yeah, like, listen, they don't, I mean, I want to know, one of the things I love about this is that it is, like, so kind of compacted and it just really clips along, but I really need to know I don't know why it bothers me. I want to know the exact amount of time that they're married. Because it's like, it's not even just like a sexless marriage, it's a kissless marriage. And again, the code, of course, like the code just like completely dictated everything about films at the time. But I'm like, I don't know, there's something about it. I'm like I said, that's sus, but also I'm like, is this marriage convenient? for both of them. I'm just throwing that out there.
He's horning around with Alice, so
this is true.
Yeah, no.
I mean, and I don't know about anyone else, but when I watched this, I was like, there is no way Mike's favorite character isn't Alice, because she pretty much hits all the check marks of any movie we ever watch of a character that Mike loves.
Serving cunt, yes, yep. I was like, Alice equals queen. As usual.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. It's call me out.
I literally, my note was, I know Mike loves Alice. She is, capital letters, scandalous.
It's
That's
true.
generous.
I thank you for knowing my taste.
I aim to please. Although I do love, the scene where she's at the apartment with Oliver, and then she like comes in and basically like catches them. I don't know, what are they doing? Like having a drink or something. And the faces made are like priceless. I felt like I was watching, I don't know, like Real Housewives or something. I was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is awesome. Although I did think it was interesting, I guess on a more serious, like sociological level, that all the men in this film kind of like pitting the two against each other. Cause really, like, even though Alice, does kind of, have this like longing and love and lust for Oliver, like at first she's cool with it and she's they're pretty like cordial. And then it seems like the men just ruin everything about it.
It's a cat fight.
The film kind of has this function where Alice exists to kind of amplify all of Irina's own anxieties about her sexuality and the way that her body functions. Because for her, with Alice, she sees everything that she's not. Like, she has this scene in the movie where she says, like, I'm envious of every woman that I see on the street. They're so free. And, like, there's a palpable longing for this character, and she really struggles with Oliver's interest in Alice, because for her, she sees that as like an underlining of everything she already thinks about herself. So there's this great dramatic tension with both of these characters in the film that I really like.
That's a good point, and I feel like that is something, I feel like every woman kind of compares themselves to other women. So yeah, there's this anxiety that exists through like every woman's mind that's in the movie, for sure.
Yeah, I have on Letterboxd, I wrote that the film is really good at capitalizing on Irina feeling like a woman who feels like she's different from other women, but the truth of the matter is that every woman at some point feels like she's different from other women.
I did, I guess this is probably the best place to put it in. I did want to have a conversation about The Therapist, and just kind of, not just his, like, actual role in the film, but just, we're talking about 1942, and I know you've written a little bit about this. I did read your Letterboxd review also, Willow. It was fantastic. But, I mean, when we're talking about back in these days, obviously, if there was anything wrong with you and you were a woman, that basically this was kind of, it was like...
They called it hysteria.
Hysteria, yes. And I was going to say, going to a therapist, probably one of the milder things that they would do to you. I mean, we're talking about a time when, stuff like shock therapy, all that kind of stuff were considered cures for this. But yeah, I'd love to just vibe off the therapist role in all of this.
It's true though, and this is such a like Freudian movie that to have the like therapist play such a kind of a central role in it is like very like pivotal, and I think it just sort of like really explicitly states that this is a Freudian movie, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know, but
it really gives me F. Scott Fitzgerald Tender as the Night vibes, with like the hysteria
like that. Yeah.
and the sexuality.
Yeah, and it kind of like pathologizes Irina, like clinically, it's like there's something medically wrong with you, like we're gonna get you seen to, and it's like, man, if you were in her place, you'd be feeling like this too, you know what I mean? Like, setting aside the whole like folklore of her village, but like, in terms of like her like disconnect and alienation from kind of like contemporary American life and even her marriage, like it's totally understandable, but it's like, here we are, let's trot out The Therapist.
Speaking of that, can we talk about the folklore? I thought that was maybe one of my favorite points of the movie, was that it was such like a fresh concept that I've never heard of. Does anyone know if that's like actual like Serbian folklore, or it's just made up?
It's rooted in some truth, but there's also some fiction in it as well. Like they kind of mix like occult stuff, like satanic stuff in with it, which is actually kind of wild for a movie from 1942. It wasn't exactly common. Val Lewton kind of did that with a lot of his horror movies for RKO. He had another movie about a neurotic woman called The Seventh Victim, about a woman who ends up being exploited by a group of devil worshippers, and that came out in 45 or 44, and like that one's also great. But I think the folklore does have some reality based in it, but there's some fiction in it too.
Nice.
Maybe Willow. I was gonna say, because I only really did like some half-assed internet research on this as I was on my trip. Yeah, super classy, super classic. But there was a sequel to this, wasn't there?
There was. It's called The Curse of the Cat People. It follows Alice's marriage to the guy in the movie a few years later, and they have a 6-year-old daughter who is beginning to exhibit some of the same neurotic tendencies of Irena, and the film is similarly psychologically evocative and really taps into the mindset of this girl who kind of doesn't understand the world around her. It's just as good as this movie.
Okay, see, and I guess I was kind of curious if, like, do they dive any more into the folklore, or is it just kind of pretty much what this has?
It does. The film is from the perspective of this little girl, so it can only do so much, but there is some more folklore in that film. But that film is mostly focused on how that girl sees the world, and the parents being like cautious and nervous about the way that she is seeing the world, and seeing if they can like maybe try to fix that, because they don't want the same thing happening to her as happened to Irena.
Okay, nice. Yeah, well, I'll have to check that out. I was just looking at another note I had written for this that, we kind of brought up when we did Dracula, also when we did the Daddy Lugosi there. Like kind of you were saying, Mike, how we don't really dive much on the podcast into, these older films. And like, man, did they have the time down? Because like you said, Willow, this is like 65 minutes long, and just the pacing. Yeah. And I was like, I remember bringing it up during Dracula, like how much it just slapped, because like not a minute was wasted, but it's not like a movie today that's just like 3.5 hours long and it's just like overly bloated, where it's just like every minute they do something with it, and it's like, yeah, then it doesn't even feel short, even though it's, an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, right? Like it's perfectly. It's just like the perfect pacing to a film. And I don't know, I might be an advocate for like, maybe we need to go back to this, like bring back these like hour 10-minute movies.
There was a reason why they did that. They would have like double bills in the past, so a movie couldn't surpass 90 minutes. So you would go and buy a ticket and you would get to watch 2 movies, and there would be an A movie and a B movie. So movies would usually be between 70, 80, 90 minutes, and this was popular up through the 1970s with drive-ins. But the case with this movie in particular is it was made as part of a double bill, so that they could get 2 movies playing back to back, and the audience would still feel like they got their fill, basically. But the fun thing about this movie is, like, even if you were to watch like this and the sequel film Curse of the Cat People together, that's still only like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like, these are dense movies, but
yeah,
like they're not rushed either.
They're like little like crystals or like diamonds, you know what I mean? It's like, just you take all of this massive amount of material and just like pressurize it into this like beautiful small thing where it's like every angle you turn at, you can see something different. Stop laughing, Jill.
Dude, how is that cider? You're being so profound right now. I'm sorry, it's funny.
No, but like, seriously, I just feel like, and maybe because I watch this the first time when I was doing like film studies, and I was like, oh my god, this is like my first time ever, you know, like kind of like looking at film seriously and like considering the formal elements. And it's like every shot, like the way that it's framed, tells you things about the characters, so you don't need to like go on and on for like 10 minutes each scene. Like they literally, you can just show a like 30-second shot and you like already have a mountain of information.
You know, if a film is shot this well, there's not a whole lot of need for exposition.
Yeah, it's very like show don't tell, you know, and I just really respect that.
There's one really great image in the film when Irena and Alice and Oliver are like at a museum, and the two of them think that she's probably bored and tell her to go off and do her own thing. And like in the background, she's seen, and she's really offended by this. And the movie doesn't take 10 or 15 minutes to like have a big fight about it. You can see all the hurt on her face in the back of the scene, and like they just go on with their own thing. But like she's actually really hurt, and they get that across in one shot that lasts maybe 5 seconds. So yeah, like when the filmmaking is this precise and as much thought goes into every single shot, you know, you can get a lot done in 65 minutes.
I was gonna say Irena being hurt is like a understatement, because then they like talk afterwards, and they just straight up left her there. They were just like, "See ya."
Yeah, they're like, "We'll see you in about an hour." Yeah,
yeah. I was like, man, that is cold blooded.
I would have been like, "You're looking at little fucking message in a bottle boats for an hour? Like, what the fuck?"
Just disrespectful, Mike. What about people that like what are the model boats, I guess? I don't know how to
I don't know why I called it messaging. Whatever. You know what I'm trying to say.
I think in that moment she was like, fuck both these people. I'm going to turn into a giant panther and kill them both.
They deserved it.
Yeah.
So this is what, and I guess you kind of explained it for me, Willow, when you talked about the sequel. But so yeah. I did like, because I did when it was done, I was kind of like, you know, it left me wondering, because I was like, did she actually turn into a panther, or was she just releasing this panther and like breeding the panther to kill people? So like I actually liked it when I finished watching it, because I still, and maybe I'm slow. I mean, we all know that I'm a little slow, so maybe I just wasn't getting it. But when I was watching, I was like, yeah, like, because it always kind of brings her, you know, she takes these walks in the zoo, she's always looking at the keys, and I'm just like, oh, maybe, you know, she's just kind of, you know, they're using this, you know, quote unquote hysteria state, that she's just like taking the panther and then, you know, releasing it somewhere. Yeah, so
that'd be so unhinged. That would be so.
I mean, it'd be super unhinged, and I was like trying to figure out the logistics of just carrying a panther around. Like, how do you do it? How do you lure it?
It's her familiar, you know?
Oh, so she's a witch now.
I mean, they are witches, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So
because it's very specifically the women, right? Like it's
yeah, it is. Yeah. I can actually explain that for you, Rowan, if you want me to.
Of course I do.
Okay. So Val Lewton and the director Jock Turner, they conceived of this film so that it could operate on 2 points of view, so that it could have a horror point of view and one where the film could be explained by some sort of metaphor of mental illness. So every single shot can operate through both of those ideas. So the way that the movie ends is it really does leave you questioning, like, okay, did she turn into a panther? Is this real? Or did she just think this about herself and then release this panther and the panther kill her? So it kind of leaves you with a question mark there, and the question mark is intended because they wanted the film to operate both ways.
So I guess I shouldn't feel so much like an idiot.
No, you got it.
Just a little bit. Just a tiny bit.
And I mean, like, think about it. The first shot of the movie essentially is like her drawing the panther with the sword through it.
Oh, yeah.
She ends the movie like lying on the ground with a sword through her, and it's like she fashioned her own demise. Yeah,
that gave me like Cruella de Vil vibes when she was like sketching, and she's like a fashion designer. That's immediately what I thought of when I threw on this movie.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. That's kind of cool.
Knowing what we know about Disney and how he like lifted from a lot of other movies and watched a lot of movies while he was making stuff for Disney, like I wouldn't be shocked at all if if he kept that idea in his head for that.
That'd be cool.
And like the timing would have been right too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, 101 Dalmatians came out in what, 61?
Yeah, it was like
the early 60s.
Early 60s, yeah.
Yeah, so Cat People would have been in like the cultural memory for sure.
Yeah.
Because it was a huge movie in 42.
I mean, huge enough to get a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking bigger than Fantasia. Fantasia bombed.
Talk that shit,
Fantasia, more
Willow.
like
Talk that shit.
more like Floptasia.
I love it. Willow, can you just make Jill cry and talk some more shit about Disney?
No, my husband actually loves Fantasia. If he heard this shit right now, he'd be so upset.
Oh.
I mean, I also think Fantasia is great. I
Yeah.
will take any opportunity to shit talk Disney.
Fair enough.
We appreciate it. I did have to bring up one scene that I was just like, oh, you pieces of shit. Where the cleaning lady's cleaning and they're just like, oh, here's some matches for your matchbook collection. And I was just like, nothing more says like, here you go, you poor piece of shit, than like, here's some matchbooks.
I have a thought about that, actually. It's funny that you bring it up. I could be wrong. This could have been me just like totally going off on a like tangent. But when I was watching that, I was just like, oh my god, they're totally like in the like Hays Code way. This is them spelling out that like Alice loves to like go out to bars and shit, and it's kind of like a way of saying maybe she's like a very modern woman and like maybe
she's
like
a loose woman.
Yeah, she's loose or whatever because she has all these matchbooks. Because where the fuck else would you get them? Like bars, hotels, restaurants. Just saying.
I mean, she didn't mind breaking up this marriage.
Right, like, exactly.
That's
like
right.
she literally was like, I know you just got married a month ago, but I
She
love
like
you,
set up
bitch."
that dinner too, like that
Yeah.
like rehearsal dinner, and she's
Yeah.
like all nice about it, and then she steals her man.
And then she sent Irina off to the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
What if it's true love, guys? What if Alice is supposed to be with Oliver?
I mean, sure. Irina deserves better.
Oh, I'm not arguing that. I was just trying to give some pro Alice here also.
Oh, we love Alice.
Yeah, we know you do.
I love a loose woman.
Look, loose women are like my life.
I loved, I should say I love it. Like, oh yeah, that's the way it should be. But I, when they're talking about Oliver, like trying to procure the divorce and that he can't, if you deem her legally insane, that you can't get divorced. I was like, what a rule. Like, what a rule. Because to me, I kept thinking, I was like, well, wouldn't it kind of almost be the opposite? Like, because I would think, like, in this time, especially where, like, even in this film's kind of, culture, like, we know Oliver's talking to the therapist, like, and back then, men were pieces of shit, and that's what they did, like...
Back then?
Oh, I mean... I feel like it's a little more risque to talk to your like wife's therapist and get all the information. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, I thought it would be the opposite, that you could probably be like, oh, she's suffering from hysteria. We need to commit her and I need a divorce ASAP. Where this was like, nope, sorry. I was just like, oh,
I mean, I'm sure they could have committed her and then just spent years shacking up. They just wouldn't have been able
I feel
to
like that would be
married.
more moral to do, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, not really, but like, fuck.
Rowan, you should have brought a lawyer on for this episode to let us know.
Well, I should have and got some opinions.
Ro has all sorts of like, he just wants to know the entire like legal ins and outs of 1940s.
Just asking for a friend, guys. I'm not asking for any specific reason or anything. Hopefully, Xili's got the door shut, so she doesn't know about this insanity.
Oh, listen, she's already on Zoom with her divorce lawyer right now.
Now, I want to break Willow's heart just a little bit. So I did have a complaint. I do have a complaint about cat people.
What's your complaint, Rowan?
Not enough cats. Not enough cats. I wanted some cats. Not necessarily a panther. I needed more house cats that were cute and adorable. And I just felt like I thought there was a promise given to me by the name and it didn't fulfill it.
How about this? We'll call it even if you'll watch a movie that I'm about to recommend to you.
Of course.
Okay. There's this movie from 1958 called Rhubarb about an orange cat who is given the legal rights to a professional baseball team after his owner dies, and it's
like
really,
Air Bud.
It's like a 1950s Air Bud, except the cat's the cat owns the team, and like this guy's mistress keeps trying to kill the cat because he gave all the money to the cat. It's a great movie. You should watch it.
Wow.
Would you suggest it as a pairing with this film for a double feature?
I think that would be fantastic.
But also Air Bud, because the 50s Air Bud with Air Bud, like I can't.
It sounds like my kind of movie,
shook.
Willow. So I've written it down in the notebook as a must watch.
He's doing it right after we're done.
5-star review coming as soon as I'm done watching it, I'm sure.
It's gonna be the new episode in Colton's favorite game of what trash do you give the same letterbox rating as Jaws? And it will definitely be Rhubarb getting the same rating as Jaws. And listen, I've never seen it. Rhubarb might be better than Jaws. It can't be worse.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Come for me.
I want to ask what the three of you thought of like, the old-fashioned jump scare scene where Alice is walking by herself on the street and she can hear Irena coming from behind from her, and like she hears like this growl but it's actually a buzz. Like that's one of the first jump scares, and I want to know what you all think of it.
I literally made a note about the jump bus scare scene. I was like this, it's literally, you can see this in every fucking movie since the 40s. Every single movie. I was like, I was like watching it and I'm like, I can see like 8 movies right off the top of my head that this is literally
Mean Girls.
Exactly. Even Mean
That's
Girls.
what I
even
thought
Mean Girls.
of.
Honestly, that would be a better double feature: Cat People and Mean Girls.
Yes. Cat fights.
Yes.
I love
and
it.
like all of this like discussion and commentary on women having to like suppress their emotions, or something bad's gonna happen, or men thinking they're crazy, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, great double feature. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That is wild. I need this to happen now. I'm gonna watch Mean Girls before I go to bed tonight.
Maybe Willow would know about this, but I believe I read that this was like the first jump scare, wasn't it? This is kind of credited. I know in my my loose internet trivia on IMDb, the first thing says that this film is like credited for creating the modern jump scare.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah.
Jump scares probably existed before then, but like the structure of this particular jump scare has been copied repeatedly ever since.
Yeah. And I feel like the use of the sound in that was and like something entering the frame at the same time is like that specific type of jump scare. I'm like, this is the blueprint right here.
Yeah, and again, like this happened because they literally just had no money. They couldn't have like an actual panther. They couldn't have any actual like heavy violence in the film just because there was like no budget. So they had to be really creative, and they came up with this.
And it's such a good scene. That was one of the ones that I had written down as my favorite in the movie, because I just was like, this is literally, you can see this in every fucking slasher movie.
Yeah.
The structure of that scene, but also that jump scare. I was like, this is like literally, like I keep saying it, it's the blueprint. It is the fucking blueprint. You see this in everything. It's just like echoing through the decades. And I love it. Also, I just want to say, this is how you fucking light a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I have, because like me and Willow and Trev, like, have said this the last couple times we've gotten together to watch movies, but like I just feel like they can't light movies anymore. And then when I watch a movie where like the lighting is so beautiful and well done, and I'm just like looking at this and I'm gagged, I can't breathe, like fuck.
Nah, it looks great. Like to this day, I was amazed that it was 1942. Are you kidding me? It looks amazing.
Like those scenes where they go into like an apartment and it's completely in darkness and they open a door or whatever, and it's like, oh my god. Like just all those movies where the entire set except for the actors are CG just like cannot hold a candle to this.
It's every single horror movie that Val Lewton made looks as good as this one.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 6 or 7 more after this, and they're all very much worth your time.
I will tell you, it's so funny because when I did watch this, back when I was in university, I remember seeing at one of the local stores, like, a Val Lewton box set of DVDs.
Yeah.
And I had no money at the time, unlike now, right? You know, because I was in university and I was like, I can't buy like a $70 box set of DVDs. I just can't. But I remember seeing that and going, I'll bet everything on this, like, looks as beautiful. And it's been years and years and years, and I still think about that box set and how, because I still haven't seen most of those movies. I know most of the ones you're talking about, and it's like, fuck, like, I just want to watch movies that look as good as this.
I know what we're doing next time we hang out.
Yeah, no, for sure. 100%.
You want to know a fun fact about Val Lewton's horror movies?
Always.
Kate Bush fucking loves them. She samples them all the time in her music. Like, if you keep... Like, she copied some of her style from characters in his movies. She's a huge fan.
Nice.
The queen
sweet.
of everything. Yeah, she does, and that's weird, because Kate Bush does, like, do samples and stuff all the time, and people don't really give her credit for that. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, she was so innovative.
I think it's on, like, The Big Sky where it begins with the vocal sample of "It's in the Trees, It's Coming."
Yeah, I literally, that's what I was thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, that's from The Leopard Man by Val Lewton.
What an icon. Legend behavior right there.
I was gonna say, when you were talking about the lighting too, I did want to bring up and mention the pool scene with Alice in the pool. Like, I thought that looked super gorgeous, and we get that, you know, kind of awesome, creepy, you know, her scared in the pool, and then, you know, the workers coming down.
What did that remind you of?
What
scene?
What did it remind me of?
Yeah.
Any pool scene in any movie.
Did it not, like, make you think of Suspiria?
It follows.
It follows as well. Yeah. No.
That's
but
what I was
you're
gonna
right.
say.
You're right.
Every pool scene makes me think of that.
Yeah.
Let the right one in. That's a good one too.
Yeah.
It was great, and you know, like, just, it looked awesome. The tension was there. I love just kind of, you know, that creepy smile that's given to Alice. And it's just, I was like, yeah, this is fantastic. So, are we comfortable in going into rating this, or is there anything else you guys would like to say?
We can go into rating.
Perfect.
I'm good, yeah.
So,
I just want to say, no, I do. I want to throw out there that... Sorry. I'm just going to sit here and wait until Rose starts speaking and then go, wait, no, hold up. I want to say that all the women in this movie are, like, such 40s, like, broads. I love them all. Like, I was obsessed with the waitress at the restaurant. I was absolutely obsessed with the girl at the desk at the swimming pool. She just kept saying, like, gee whiz, and, like, yeah, she just seemed like I wouldn't want to mess with her. She was like, I was like, this is a broad right here, and like the best. No, seriously, I was like, they're broads, and I mean, like, literally, that's such a compliment. But just every woman in this movie was amazing. Yeah.
All hate mail sent to Mike. So if you're new to the program,
actually, I just want to stop fucking joking.
I hate you all. Let's get into rating it. So if you're new
Rowan.
Oh, fuck, man.
The worst. If you're new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Mike, this was your pick. What would you rate 1942's Cat People?
Okay, I don't think it's gonna come as any surprise that I'm fucking slaying this bitch. I give it 5 fingernails raking down the couch and tearing it open. It is perfection. Again, like I said, it's like a crystal, it's a diamond. Like, to me, it's like not only the blueprint, because you can see it and everything, but like, it's so economical, and just every little facet of it is so, like, perfect. I think it's so elegant. And I think that's what I love about it. Like, it's very elegant, like, narratively and formally. And I know you don't often want a horror movie to be elegant, but I think there's something beautiful about it. So yeah, it's a sleigh. It's an elegant, beautiful, classic sleigh. Jill.
Listen, I've been dreading this moment because, someone's got to fill in for Colton.
Someone's gotta be a hater is what I'm hearing.
Someone's gotta be. I'm not a hater. I appreciate Cat People 1942 for how it paved the way. It was a trailblazer. It did it beautifully. I think it stands the test of time visually. I know they couldn't do much with like a budget, you know, like whatever restrictions you have in the 40s. I enjoyed it, but it's not really my type of movie. Like, it's not something I would sit down and personally watch. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it an okay, although I can appreciate the sleigh, and I'm very sorry. Like, I enjoyed it. It was good.
That's fine.
I like the themes, but it's not something that I would personally watch, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm giving it an okay, but it was good. What about you, Willow?
It's a sleigh for me. It's exactly the type of horror movie that I go for. And the kind of thing that I like to sit down and watch. Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to even separate myself from this movie and be objective with it, because I've loved it since I was a teenager. But even when trying to be objective with it, I just think it's incredible for the time period and holds up today. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
And I guess that just leaves me. Ooh, this is a rough one. The
hater supreme himself. Can you imagine?
Well, I'm going to kind of split you guys down the middle. So I'm going to give it a yay. I will, full disclosure, I was going to come in and I was going to give it an okay. I thought it looked beautiful. I have, I have also said on the podcast, how scared I was when we watched Dracula, because I really am not into like black and white. That's just kind of my blind spot, and I'm never really into it. But then we know what happened. I watched Dracula, and then I was floored. I was wowed. I was like, oh my God, I've been missing out. But I'm going to give this a yay because I did like the story. Do I wish there was maybe a little more for me, and not necessarily that this movie is for me or created for me, but I wish there might have been a little more scares, like maybe a little more violence, even though there couldn't have been. But I felt like even something like Dracula, I got a little bit more of what I am into.
Hey, Rowan, there was no code when Dracula was made. They could do whatever they wanted to.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's why
1938 or something, or like late 30s.
What?
When the code
35 is when the code
35,
takes place, yeah.
What I do really like about this is the conversations coming out of the movie that we've had, as well as that, I did try to I went and read Willow's review on it, and I was trying to read other people's reviews, and just like I said, I've seen stuff in magazines written about it, and I love kind of this continuous re-examination of this film and the themes and what it means to different sects of people, and I think it is an important film, so I am going to give it a yay on that basis. So I feel like we have everything covered. We won't guess what Colton would have gave it, because he'd probably just be a party pooper and give it an A or something.
Hater.
If Colton would have given this film an A, despite being like a cinematographer, he should lose his job.
Oh shit! Please don't cut that.
Leave it in.
I mean, if you want him to give it a sleigh, we could just make our own cut of it where it just says A24 at the beginning.
I was going to say slap A24 logo on it, yeah.
And then he'll just automatically give it, he probably won't even watch it. He'll just watch that beginning and he'll be like, yeah, that's a sleigh for sure. So we told you what we thought about the movie, and we asked what you thought about the movie. And sadly for Willow, because I know you love this, we only had one person right and comment on this movie, which, to be honest, doesn't surprise me, because I don't think, this movie, I'm hoping more and more people that don't know about it will go back and watch it at least once and find out about it. I feel like
because it is on Prime, we need to say it's very easily accessible.
Oh, and let me say, which I didn't mention, I skipped in my notes, maybe the highlight of this whole film was that when it was done, Prime recommends you a movie that you should watch next, and the movie it recommended me was Morbius. So maybe that's the double feature we really need.
Cinematic parallels, Cat People and Morbius.
Stop it.
But we did have someone right on Twitter. We had Jiggy's Horror Corner right, and comment and say, I may be in the minority, but I personally lean towards okay. I don't deny that the atmosphere is stellar and that pool sequence is very solid, but as an overall viewing experience, there are other horror movies from the 1940s I'd rather spend time with.
Fair.
So, I mean, not everything is going to be everyone's cup of tea, so that happens.
Yeah, it kind of leans with like what I just said.
Yeah. Honestly, with a movie this old, I'm just happy if someone even like cares to watch it.
Yeah. And honestly, like I love that Criterion putting out an edition of it, like definitely legitimizes it, I feel like, for some people that maybe would have written it off.
But yeah, we do have a voicemail, so we're gonna go over to the horrific hotline, and as always, check in. I think Nicholas left us a voicemail. I'll preface it by saying he did say he was going on vacation, so we told him the movie when we were doing Evil Dead 2. He watched it, sent a voicemail like an hour before he went to vacation.
Oh my god.
What a man.
It's a real one.
Yeah, real one. Yeah. So we'll see what Nicholas had to say about Cat People.
Okay, so I just watched the 1942 Cat People, which I hadn't seen before. I only know the version from the 80s with Natasha Kinski. And I do have to say, it is more of a relationship drama with horror elements than a straight-up horror movie. At least I feel so, because the horror really only starts after about 45 minutes, with half an hour left to the movie. But what I do have to say is, I really like that the horror is way more subtle for the most part compared to other movies from the 30s and 40s, especially like the Universal monster movies. And also there are two, in my opinion, well-made horror set pieces. The one with the bus jump scare at the end, which might actually be the first jump scare ever. I don't know, but could be. And the one in the swimming pool. I thought those were really cool. However, I think it is somehow too slow and too fast in its pacing in the first half of the movie. Things happen way too fast, but it feels like a drag the first half hour. And then the ending is very abrupt, in my opinion. It's a bit unfitting. I would have liked for, especially the main character, Irina, not necessarily a better ending, but a ending that puts her into a better spotlight, because I think they don't do her justice in the end, since she is actually the main character, and Alice and what's his name, Irina's husband, somehow become the main characters,
the dude,
for the final 15 minutes. So overall, I'd say it's an okay, could be a yay, or probably would be a yay if I had watched it way earlier back in the days, but didn't.
So yeah, it seems like Jill is just in line with the people. You're a spokesperson for the people.
That's why you got me here, right? Democracy and such.
It's so funny because I keep thinking now, like, tonight, I don't know why I never, like, made this connection before, but, like, everything that everybody's saying tonight and, like, what Nicholas just said kind of underscored that for me, was that it's also, like, very gothic. Because it reminds me of, like, the husband and his mistress trying to, like, gaslight the wife, you know, and make her go crazy. And it really has all those, like it has, like, kind of noir trappings, but also, like, gothic trappings. Right. And I just think that makes it really interesting. I'm just throwing that out there. I do love a good, like, gothic gaslighting story. Real gaslighting, not this stupid shit that people say now.
Literally one of the best gothic horror / thriller movies of all time from the 1940s is just called Gaslight.
I know. There's actually two versions of that, isn't there?
Yeah.
One from I remember seeing that, like, probably around the same time as I saw this, and I'm like, oh my god, Gaslight. So then when everyone, like, starts using Gaslight, I'm like, y'all just need to watch the movie called Gaslight, because you really don't know what you're talking about. You want to know what gaslighting is?
It's another movie with just absolutely incredible atmosphere and cinematography.
But yeah, so thanks for calling in, Nicholas, as always. And if you want to call into the hotline, you can do so by leaving a message at 1-902-418-8620. Or you can send a voicemail to itslayspodcast@gmail.com, or send it, I've had people send them over like Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger. If it's easier for you to just kind of record a voice note and send it, we will somehow get it on to the horrific hotline. I will figure it out. That's what I get paid the big bucks to do, I guess. And before we announce the next episode, I'm gonna do some shameless promoting. So if you are not following us on social media, do so at It Slays Podcast, pretty much everywhere on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, Slasher, Letterboxd. If there's a social media out there, we're probably on it, unless it's like Rumble or something. And see, it's so weird when I do these, because this is where Colton throws it to me, and now I'm just like throwing it to myself. And I'm like, hey, Rowan, why don't you tell them about the playlist? So
Rowan, why don't you tell them about the playlist?
So go to Spotify, go to the It Slays Podcast Horrific playlist. If you are into spooky music, we upload music from horror movies we review, or horror movies we love, or just iconic horror movies. It can be score, it can be licensed music. It's all up there, just something that reminds us of great films, or maybe not so great films, but they just have a banger soundtrack. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media. In our link tree, there's a link directly to it. So go and listen to that and get your spooky music on. And also, if you're not doing it, follow us on Patreon and become a horror hound. We do twice a month now. We just started doing twice a month. A new series called Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and I am usually on them myself, and we review Tubi movies that are just, what are they, Jill? They're just usually horrid pieces of shit that no one want to watch. Sometimes we find a gem. Usually we don't. So go there and subscribe, become a horror hound. You also get these episodes 48 hours earlier than everyone else. So, be cool. Be the guy that already heard the episode before anyone else, or the gal, or the they, or the folks, or whatever. I'm inclusive over here.
Cat person?
That's right.
Or the cat. I need a movie about that cat lady, by the way. I'm obsessed with her. Sorry.
See, as you guys can tell, I'm just rambling because I never do these promotions, and I have no idea. Would I write this stuff down? The listeners know I wouldn't. I never do.
Absolutely not.
Colton is missing. I should do it. He's going to message me later, and he's going to be like, man, you really suck that one. And I'm like, yeah.
Big mad.
Yeah, we'll make him mad, and we'll just troll him. But last and not least, we have to announce our upcoming episode, and it is Jill's pick. Jill, what are we watching next?
All right, next episode is going to be on Annihilation. So definitely check back for that one.
That was like that's a little shade thrown at all other picks. You're like, whoa, make sure you listen to that episode.
We all know that my picks are the best picks, because Willow definitely wanted to come on for Ginger Snaps. So
yeah.
But before we go, Willow, why don't one last time you let everyone know where they can read your stuff?
You can read me at patreon.com/Willow Caitlin McClay. That's Caitlin spelled Catelyn. You can read me at my personal website, curtsiesandhandgrenades.com. I've been writing lately for Polygon, and I have a book coming out next year if you want to read that. It is called Corpses, Fools, and Monsters, an Examination of Transgender Cinema.
It is available for pre-order on Amazon.
Yes, go pre-order. I didn't know that, and I'll make sure I pre-order it tonight. So
you also put the link in the when you post this episode.
Yeah, we'll make sure. I made sure last time that Willow was on, we put all the links she wanted in, so we will make sure that is there. So yes, people, As always, thank you for all the support. Get Annihilation into those eye holes and come back in 2 weeks. I don't think there's any Now Slayings coming up. This is a dry month for horror. For some reason, not a lot going on. I think next month's pretty busy, but I'm sure we'll have some stream screams coming your way. So as always, I am Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
And bye, it's Jill.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth and a Fletcher. The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.